Are we live? Are we live? Is this thing on? It looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So it's been a little while. It's been a hot minute. Haven't been on the live show for a while, but glad to see you guys back. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about is I've been floating around the idea of possibly selling Revlon. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way really early. And we can talk about that here in just a little bit. But it is one thing that I am going to be floating out there here probably in the next, I'd say, couple of weeks is the potential for that project to come to an end. Love the car to death. I've had a lot of fun with that thing, but I've also had a lot of fun with that one right there and that one right there. You know, it's been a long journey. You know, this whole automotive thing always takes on its own, twists and turns, sometimes literally, like that picture right there. But anyway, guys, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is just, how strange life can be when it comes to putting together, projects that are interesting, putting together cars that, can keep your interest for any real length of time. And, with these modern Mopars, it's, how do I say this without really coming out of my own lane here, but it's difficult with these modern cars to stay involved and stay engrossed with some of these things, mainly because they're just so good that getting the next best thing, the next better thing is really difficult. So, but with Dodge not really giving us any hints or any ideas as far as what they may be coming out with in the near future or ever, if that even is a way of looking at it, it's one of these strange things where I would love to stick with Dodge, but there might be other things out there that I could find myself getting into. So at any rate, let me check in with you guys. Ryan's first name. What's up, Ryan? Will is in saying, what up, B? Tad is in saying, you see Dodge is bringing back the stealth. It's something that sucks. Complex is in, got the cadence. I like it. Got the ball guy with the shades. Albert saying, great to have you back. Great to be back. Nitro Crew is in. Got the cadence. Got the flex ball guy with the shades. Ryan saying, I think I found a 34 Dodge Humpback delivery to put that poly stroker in. Very cool. So that would actually be a lot of fun. But yeah, as far as, what would I do after getting rid of Revlon? Well, I mean, it would free up funds. And that's really more the point is, having something and having the ability to start a new project. And sometimes you've got to get rid of a project, and that would, obviously free up quite a bit of operating capital, if you will. So if you are interested, bmasontv@gmail, let me know. But aside from that, what else has been going on? Well, we can get to the why I haven't been on in a while in just a little bit. It's really more of it's a family thing. Had a loss in the family, so I've been tending to that. But life, unfortunately, life, fortunately, I should say, goes on, and unfortunately, we get we get to deal with these things as family members grow older. So, but in saying that, this is, it's good to be back. It's good to be getting into a little bit better sense of normalcy. Being able to hang out with you guys is very important. So, the beverage this evening, by the way, electrolyte, because nothing hits as hard as electrolyte, except for maybe, I don't know, electrolyte's hitting pretty hard right now. Ryan, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that. But what am I looking at? Well, I may be doing boat chat live here before you know it. I'm also going to start tearing down the T595. So For those of you guys that don't know, and really there wouldn't be much of a reason for you to know. So I have had a motorcycle longer than I have not had a motorcycle in my life. It's kind of weird. I've actually, as we've been, rummaging through pictures and things like that, I've got pictures of me at about 5 years old riding motorcycles, a PW50. If you're not familiar with what a PW50 is, check it out. It's me and my cousin would just go, mash on these things. And it was just a blast when I was a little kid. So, but yeah, it's so my dad had my old Triumph T595. It's a really cool bike. And I'm going to start doing some things to get that thing back up and running. You may have seen that bike in the background of a couple of videos sitting on the stands. I'll be starting to tear that down pretty quickly. And I'm going to resurrect a boat. It's a old Chris Craft Scorpion right out of the 80s. So really cool stuff. It's really cool for those of us of a certain age that remember, Smith & Wesson Model 59s, Cuddy cabin boats, and just some of the sweetest attire and drip you've ever seen coming out of the mid 80s. So there's a lot of that to work with and to go there. Tad saying dream bike 70s KZ900. Dad had one. Matter of fact, he and I went looking for one at one point. The Z1, awesome bike. We were going to build a drag bike out of it if we could have found one. We just never did really find one that was up to snuff to actually do a build on. DM's liking the cocoa flavor. Coconut hits pretty hard. If you like coconut water, like real coconut water, you'll like the cocoa. But this is the Mexican version. Electrolyte is actually a Mexican concoction, and it kind of makes Gatorade its bitch, to be honest with you. So electrolyte for the win, baby. Will, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. Fred saying, what's cooking? Some Frog guy saying, all the new Mustang S650 reviews hit today. What are your thoughts? So I haven't had a chance to dive into the S650 primarily because I did a little bit of a deeper dive into that car early on. And here's the problem with the Mustang. As Dodge has remained stagnant since 2015 in their interior, Mustang has steadily gotten better, or at least has always had an optional, very good interior. So, yeah, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with. That Coyote engine they keep developing it. They keep doing something with it. And my big complaint with the 392, I have two complaints against the Gen 3 Hemi. One is that they never put a variable runner on the car 5.7s. I think that's criminal. And the cam profile kind of, it's good for a fixed intake, but it really wouldn't be. In fact, if it were up to me, I'd have put the 392 cam in the 5.7 and given the 392 a little bit more aggressive cam, but that's just me. In fact, I know the exact grind I would put in it as a stock car. Anyway, getting back to it. If the 392 would have had a little bit more aggressive cam and a slightly revised intake manifold, you would have been looking at about a 5.25 horse 392. And that is where that car would have wound up. And I think that really would have been the sweet spot for that car as it would have been exiting the marketplace. So that the 392 for me is always going to hold a really special place. It's an engine that is incredibly hard to beat, and it's very hard to improve upon, especially when you remember that, it's got a lot of hot rod parts already built into it, including the camshaft, believe it or not. Even though it's got a real wide lobe sep, it's not bad, especially when you start to rock that thing back and forth. Ryan's liking the R6 or an old Panhead. What's weird is that I tried to get into Harleys, and I always ended up leaning more towards sport bikes and European bikes, but I do like the older Harleys a lot. I like them for their simplicity. Um, there's something to be said for, something that is just that simple and that cool. Smokey saying, howdy, Professor. What's up? Smokey saying, I got a 390 rear O for his A8TA 392. That's going to be aggressive. Do you recommend a break-in period or break-in oil? There is no break-in oil. You're just going to put your LSD, your limited slip differential oil, in the diff. It does come with the friction modifier already in it. So get your, I guess best way I can put this is use whatever VIN you got the diff out of. That's going to be the oil you're going to put in it, but it's going to be the stuff from Dodge. It's already got the friction modifier in it. Now, yes, you are going to have a break-in period. That break-in period is going to last for about 200 to 300 miles. You're not going to shower down on it. You're just going to, basically give it some spirited driving, but you're just not going to beat on it. I know that a lot of guys will say drive the thing in circles, do figure eights. You can do that. That's totally fine. But after a couple of 100 miles of driving, those clutches are going to be completely saturated and you'll be in good shape. Oh, Ryan's granddad had a panhead. Nice. Oh, there you go. I even saw it as panhead, but I got you. Ted saying he's always loved the cafe bikes. Cafe bikes are sweet, man. So again, if you're not familiar with what a T595 is, it's a Triumph motorcycle it's not 595 cc's. It's actually 955, I think, cc's. It's been a hot minute since I've even thought about this thing, but it's kind of like Great Britain's answer to like the Ducatis of the day. And really cool bike, a little bit less sporty, but it's a sporty looking bike, single-sided swing arm. Really cool bike. I used to love riding this thing. And so anyway, you wouldn't really call it a track bike as much as you would call it just a real sporty touring bike. So, but it will absolutely hang with, or at least back in the day, it would hang with pretty much anything. 954s, any of the Ducatis of the day it would run with. Nothing, obviously none of the leader class bikes today, basically it's got about the same power to weight ratio as, I don't know, something like a modern 600, if you will, just kind of torquier. Red line's at about 10.5. Hey, Smoking, thank you very much, man. I appreciate the super chat. And thanks, best car advice on the web. Well, thank you very much. If I can help you with anything else, guys, let me know. That is why I do this, to answer all of your burning, yearning Gen 3 Hemi questions, if I can answer them at least. And this is all coming from a guy that used to work at a shop, been in and around these things for a hot minute, and doing a lot of work with customers, helping them with builds, things like that. So Ryan saying kind of like a British R6 or CBR 600 by today's standard. Yeah. They're like, it would be a contemporary, another bike that I had, RC51. It's a contemporary to the RC51. And it's kind of along the same lines, really. I mean, they're not really light. You wouldn't say that it's flickable. Stable is really more what you would call it. Like the way I would describe my RC51 was it was very stable and very linear in the torque output. Nothing like my GSX-R 750. GSX-R 750 was real peaky. And I really liked that bike. Thunder Hill was my home track. And so that was where I really used to like ringing that thing out if I wasn't acting like a complete knob running through San Francisco back in the day. So But yeah, that's the for the more discerning motorcyclist, if you will, the Triumphs are actually really, really cool. Um, and very, very British, and not only their riding experience, but in their execution, because true to form, it's electrical problems like you wouldn't believe. That's one of the things I'm going to have to be sourcing out. So, um, oh, Ryan, I think you said Dad had a Victory. Victories are really nice bikes. One of the things about Victories that I always liked was that their ergos were always really good. Smokey saying, I got some track time practice in my launch, got 14 runs in. Good job. Car ran super consistent, even doing round robin runs. Very nice. Yeah, guys, one of the most important things you can do is practice. Practice, practice, practice. And this is something that, you know, I've harped on for a long time, is to get to know your car, get to know just the way the thing is going to react. One of the weird things about this lifestyle, especially if you're really wanting to learn how to drive any car for that matter, it's just overwhelmingly important that whichever platform you decide to run with, that you get as much playtime as you can in that thing. I mean, this car right here, that Viper, I had hours upon hours upon hours of just driving that car. I had a spot, I was really lucky where I lived. There was a huge industrial area. It wasn't even like an industrial complex. It wasn't anything like that. It was the equivalent of having paved oil field roads everywhere. And so, you know, I had opportunities to really learn that platform. And so that's why I was the only reason why I was able to ever get good at it is because I spent a whole lot of money in gas, and you know, that was just what I did. It was just you know, getting out there and running that thing. But that's what you've got to do. It's what I've done with that car. It's what I've done with that car, and pretty much every other car that's in the arsenal. It's just a lot of practice time, a lot of driving, but mainly just going out and having fun. And when you're having fun and you're kind of goofing off in a safe-ish environment, you pick up on your skill set a lot more quickly. And you learn more quickly when you're having fun, because it's play. That's how kids learn. That's how we learn as adults too, is if you can learn and play, your skill set develops quickly and it escalates really fast. So get out there. If you can, get involved with SCCA, get involved with autocross. I know a lot of people look down on autocross for whatever reason, but it's a fantastic training aid for folks. If you have, you know, a limited amount of skill set, it's a great opportunity to develop a skill set in a controlled environment. So, you know, definitely something to look into. You know, controlled drift events too. I mean, there's always something you can do to help improve, you know, your skill set. So, J392 saying, hit that like. Yes, please like, subscribe. Let's see. Oki's asking, does a Scat Pack beat a Mustang from a dig? Depends on who's driving it, and depends on what tire you got on it. What about a roll race? Roll race is going to go to the Mustang usually. From a dig on a tire, it's going to be tough to beat a Scat Pack if the Scat Pack cooks. Okay, saying, are your glasses mandatory or just for reading? Both. Smoke is saying, I can't get quite as good as 60-foot time, even with drag radials, as regular Scats. I suspect it's because the TA has non-adjustable sport suspension. It's stiff all the time. I actually used to race in sport. But it's just going to be, you got to learn throttle control. That's the main thing. Jason, I beat Mustangs. I'll tell you what, my SRT at the drag strip only lost to one Mustang in a drag race, mod for mod. They would always mile an hour me, but they couldn't catch me. Albert's asking, quick side question. Any recommendations for a good muffler on an 0357 Ram with a stock exhaust? 10 series Flowmaster? can go 10 series flow. They sound really good. I'm a big fan of MagnaFlow. I always have been. They have a kind of a bit more of a mellow tone, but it's God, it's such a subjective thing. But any of the flow through mufflers are going to be really good. So Borla, MagnaFlow, those are all good, but it's tough to beat a Flowmaster for sound. Ogie's asking, would I rather have a Demon 170 or a drag pack? Demon 170. Only because I'd be able to run E85 through it. Sublime's asking, hey, B, my condolences to you and your family. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Finally won a Hemi shootout event this past weekend in my Scat Pack. AZ850 drag radials, hook. Okay. Nice. Very nice. I've heard nothing bad about the AZ850DR. I mean, I've heard some good stuff, actually. Modern's asking, have you used Granatelli throttle bodies? Negative, have not. I have a 105 and getting codes. You will have to change your airflow in the tune to match up with that 105. If you don't, it can cause significant surging, and it can kind of piss off the tune in general. So make sure that you adjust your airflow accordingly. You'll need to bump that up. That's in HP tuners. It's engine, airflow, throttle body airflow. He's asking, what trim is higher, TA or Daytona? They're up levels. I wouldn't say one is necessarily higher than the other. TA is got some actual performance mods, so I'd probably give the nod to the TA. Smokey saying autocross is great because you can push your car to the limit in relative safety. True, unlike a road course where you can ball it up, which is 100% accurate. Most of the time, guys, it's funny. Autocross will humble you quickly. There's nothing more humbling. In fact, what's funny is my dad and I were instructors for autocross. So if it was your first or second time going around a course, we would be riding with you, or you would ride with us and we would show you around the track and give you pointers and give you an idea how to get around the thing. Now that was a lot of years ago, but it was a lot of fun because most of the time guys are pretty humble. They're all of them will tell you, I'm just here to learn, just here to try to figure things out. Every once in a while you get somebody who thought that they were hot shit, and then somebody's 14-year-old daughter in a Miata just gets out there and horrifyingly embarrasses them. So ask me how I know about that. Let's see. And that's with her driving and that dude riding. Ryan's asking on that 34 Humpback, would you go open headers or something different? Wouldn't go open headers. I would probably do, man, I don't know. Do a mufflered collector. Do the bolt-on 24-inch collector is what I would do. Oki's asking, who wins in a roll, Camaro or Mustang GT? Mustang GT wins. Modern Red saying it's been tuned. Oh, it has been tuned. Oh, well, if it's been tuned with that, then it may have a machining issue. But usually when it comes to throttle bodies, when they start acting up with throttle bodies, especially with the bigger ones, it's because the airflow, the throttle body airflow needs to get bumped up. Usually if you bump it up 10%, kind of fixes some problems. And I know that for the NA cars, it will fix some serious issues that they run into if you're running a like a Hellcat throttle body or something like that. Oh, J392 saying he's liking the Corsa Extreme and stainless. Those are good. X-Mod's good too. Oki, that is a rip-off, in my humble opinion. These cars are just way too expensive these days. Ogie's asking, would I consider myself one of the best drivers at the drag strip? I'm certainly one of the most consistent, if nothing else. There's a lot of guys that are as good as me, if not better, I'm sure. So I wouldn't say best. I don't like using the word best. Really, when it comes to driving, there is no such thing as best. It's just experienced. So am I one of the most experienced? Yeah, I've got a lot of years racing. I mean, this is from exactly 20 years ago. That is from, when was that? Hang on. That is a Solo 2. Hang on. That is from, okay, that's actually really cool. I had forgotten about that. So check this out. That is from March 2nd, 2003. This is from May 2nd, 2003. So, yeah. And by the way, that is Foxy circa 20 years ago. But again, I just have a lot of experience. And anybody that tries to holler out best is, I mean, maybe, but typically they're not. Sublime's asking, what are your thoughts on sway bar removal for drag strip or for drag racing? I know a lot of guys do it with the Challengers and don't seem to have any issues with it. You are removing about, if it's a Hellcat, you're removing a lot of weight. That front sway bar is ridiculously heavy. For the Scatties, you're only removing about 20 odd pounds. And as far as weight transfer goes, it's kind of a catch-22 because you got to remember you don't have a solid rear axle. You have independent rear suspension. And the problem with that is that your footprint, what the hell is that shit? Is as that rear suspension compresses, you lose contact patch. So it's a fine line between compressing the rear suspension and moving it past what is in essence an ideal angle for the tires to be coming into contact with the track. So, but nobody that I know runs into a problem with it. I just wouldn't recommend it necessarily for spirited cornering or anything like that. But, we'll see. When I say we'll see, it's just more along the lines of what are your thoughts on it if you decide to do it? Most guys, like I say, I know plenty of guys that do it and don't have any issues. Barnes saying, thank you. Somebody saying Scat should be in the $40,000 range and Hellcat's in the 60. True that. That said, that one, Little Miss Revlon, is going to be coming up for sale, it looks like. Oki's asking, do you think you would have got a better time for the normal Demon than a 965 when he came out? Do you think you could have done better? Actually, we set the as delivered record with the Demon 2 years in a row at a 978 and a 977. And that's with my buddy Ray's 2 Demons that he had. And here's the issue that we ran into with that. We could not, and that was at Legion of Demons, by the way. So it was actually at an event. And one of the issues that we ran into, keep in mind, we ran those numbers on Nitto NT05s in as delivered condition as a 1-seat car. So rear seat delete and 1 seat in the car, the drag front tires with the stock NT05s out back. And in that configuration, which was an as delivered configuration, the car did go the 978, which at the time, nobody had gone that quick. We could not replicate the conditions that car had run the 965 in. And that's actually a big deal for Demon 170 owners, is that 891, there's a lot of folks that are looking at that with a lot of skepticism because nobody thinks it's a real number. And because it took us over the course of 2 years, we didn't get any quicker than the 9.7s. And that was actually in really good air. So, we're looking at it going, look, if you have a waif for a driver, Ray and I were both over 200 pounds. Leah is all of maybe 125 pounds. That actually just sub fantastic conditions. You can get a number out of me. And listen, I'm national record holder only because Mother Nature decided to be cool with me one night. So, but that's one of the things that granted, I did run a string of 10.08s when the weather was kind of not as good in terms of low DA, but we were chasing humidity numbers that night for that car to run an 05. In the way that it ran an 05 to set the record was just like close your eyes and shake your head kind of nutty. So let's see. Boost is asking, is the Hellcat Charger front sway bar as heavy as a Challenger? No, my understanding is that the Hellcat Charger front uses the Scat Pack front. The Challenger is the only one that uses the solid metal bar, and it is obnoxiously heavy for what it is. Slash is in. Jay's asking, would I trade a 2022 wide body Scat Auto for a 2023 manual Scat wide body? No, I would not. No chance. Okie saying, will the Demon 170 absolutely destroy the normal Demon or not that bad? You define it, because here's the thing. I would like to see them both go at it 93 octane for 93 octane. The problem is that you're asking a gasoline car to go up against an E85 car in general. And that's, if you're running them both, like if the Demon, regular Demon is on, I don't know, MS 109, even a mildly oxygenated, or Sunoco 107 oxygenated race gas, that's going to be a close race. That will be close in terms of fuel to E85. However, that Demon is going to be running lean. Like it's going to be, it should have enough in it to be able to adjust. But anyway, to give you an idea, the reality is that the 170 should be a solid 9.0 to a 9.2 car, depending on the air. And if I'm being honest, it really should fall into that 9.1-ish number area. Whereas the Demon, realistically, guys, the Demon is, from what I've seen and in my experience with that car, it's a 985 car. So, is 9.2 destroying a 980? Yeah. I mean, if you're going by the normal parlance of what gets determined as destroyed, right? Yeah. I mean, that it will absolutely house that thing, but you got to remember that all that power is kind of useless if you can't hook up. And it's only at a drag strip that you can really get this type and this level of performance out of those cars. So the real question is, what would it look like if you were to just line them up and did like a hit at 70? That would be a fairly interesting race. But I don't know. We'll see. The 170 is going to have a lot of nannies. So just understand that that's going to be a thing coming into this. Yeah, I would like to see that car do well, but here's the issue that I have with the 170. And that is, do any of you guys remember watching the release of that car, like the reveal, I should say? It's been a while back, right? the 170 for me right now is very much in line with the flavor of an average hamburger that I had months ago from a place that was nice and the burger was good. But coming from the aftermarket, I know everybody hates this when I get into this, but coming from the aftermarket, we've kind of been there and done this with this car. Our only thing with the 170 is how can this technology waterfall for the rest of us that have Hellcats or red eyes or anything like that? And when I'm talking about technology waterfalling, I'm talking about the E85 and the sensor and everything else. How can I take, I don't know, how can I take advantage of that? That's the main thing. So we'll see. Smoking say, I believe Leah Pruitt drove the 2018 Demon. She did. And she weighs all of 100 pounds. That's kind of about right. Smoking saying I should sign my blower, make my car worth more when I sell it. I don't know if it'd be worth more or less if I did that. Let's see, I'm checking in with Slime. Jay saying, thanks. I got to stop shopping for sure, bro. I'm the same way. Shane saying, I'm contemplating so heavily on a manual 1314 Challenger SRT or the SRT Core right now, all while trying to finish my build on a 416 stroker LS3 I'm currently on. That's one car I've never owned, and I was even talking to my wife about this. What's so weird is that I've never owned a Gen 5, and it's actually a 5th gen Camaro is what I'm getting at. It's one of my favorite cars. And that's exactly the build that I would be building. It'd be a 416 stroker. I wouldn't go ridiculous with the cam, and I would actually rock stock LS3 heads. Wouldn't touch them. MSD intake, probably something like a 230, 236, 238 style cam. Nothing crazy, nothing that would leg it out too much, but it would be a lot of fun to drive. Kurt, I do not really follow F1 racing at all. Oki's asking, so the Demon 170 will be even more terrible on gas driving it around? No, not at all. In fact, if you've never driven a Demon or lived with any of the Hellcat variants, like my car, this one, it's got a 309 rear diff in it. And on the highway, it'll knock down 23, 24 miles per gallon. The Demon would knock down 23 miles per gallon pretty easily just going down the highway. All of them do. You got to remember, they all take the same amount of fuel to go a speed, right? So the only extra fuel that the engine burns is just to overcome frictional losses, but the output is still the same. It takes a certain amount of power to overcome frictional losses and wind resistance based on whatever coefficient of drag and coefficient of friction you're working with, aero and tires. So in other words, it takes 40 horsepower and 60 foot-pounds of torque, however you want to look at it, to make a car, whatever it is, go a speed, for example. So it doesn't matter if it's a 400 cubic inch engine or a 200 cubic inch engine. It's going to have to make that much power to make that thing go. So kind of one of those things. But no, they actually get pretty decent gas mileage, and they ride nice too because they have a softer suspension. It's one of the things about the Demon that I always loved. It was one of the happiest cars I had ever driven. That's actually what I did to this car. I more or less just kind of demonized my Hellcat. X is in. What up, Professor B in chat? We're back. Oh, yes. Oh, he's asking, did my dad teach me how to race at a drag strip, or how did you learn about car stuff? Who taught you? So it was kind of a two-headed dragon with that. So yes, my dad did teach me a lot. My dad, speaking of that 70s KZ900, my dad used to street race that bike along with a 69 Corvette, big block car. And so I got a lot of teaching from him. My grandfather used to race what would end up being it was basically stock cars back then. It would be NASCAR before it was NASCAR today. So he would drag me out to oil field roads. A matter of fact, I took my dad's truck out to one of the oil field roads that we used to go play on. And believe it or not, that road is still an old shale oil field road. So I went out there and had a little bit of fun in dad's truck. So that was neat. But my granddad would, and my dad and I did this too, but my granddad would, you go, all right, we're going driving. So he'd get a 6-pack of either whatever beer he was into at the time, Miller Lite, Coors Light, whatever it was, or PBR was the other one. And yeah, it's my driving lube. Anyway, we take me out to these oil field roads, and you got to control the skid, boy. You get me out there, and I'd make me drift this old Dodge truck and his old El Camino. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. But my dad did the same thing with an old K10 Chevrolet. So it was a lot of fun. And but yeah, I took one of my dad's truck and I took it out to one of the shale roads, and almost got into a little bit of trouble, not because I was doing anything stupid, but because there was people coming back and forth, going back and forth and to and fro, whatever, off of this road. So I didn't get a chance to play with it as much as I wanted to, but don't worry, I'll be back. But that was kind of neat. That was what it was like growing up me. And one of the funnier, okay, so there's a lot of funny driving stories. And what I really ought to do is like a story time with Brian, because some of these driving stories are, they're too good to not let out there. One of them was me having to go pick my dad up because he had run Foxy off the road. Anyway, the cops got involved, and it was actually really funny. There's that story. There's one of me, another situation with the cops getting involved with me, an El Camino, and my rather well lubricated grandfather in the passenger seat. So, all right, I'll give you a quick one on that one. So I must have been maybe 13 or 14 years old. And we're in the Elko, and there's on the shale roads in this small town, they just kind of wander back off into these fields. They're just oil field roads. And the whole purpose of this is for, they're small pumps or pumping stations along the way. So anyway, we got out there and we've been out playing around for too long. And apparently we caught the ire of somebody that worked out there, and they didn't really appreciate us, kicking up all this dust. And so anyway, I didn't realize it, but I was running from the cops. Anyway, so I stop. Where the oil field road ends and where the street begins, basically it tees off. It doesn't keep going through, it just tees off. Well, we didn't know that the cops were behind us, and we didn't know really what was going on, because I'm sitting there, I pull onto the road and he's laughing. I'm having a good time. And a couple of the locals pulled right up, he lit us up. One guy lights us up. The other guy pulls up next to me. So I had to pull over. And so anyway, it was pretty funny. So I was kind of running from the cops at about the age of 14 with he had finished the 6-pack and he did it pretty quick. So it was pretty funny. Anyway, but that was at a time where you get away with that stuff. Like, anyway, it ended like this. Okay, son, you don't have a driver's license, do you? My grandfather, he doesn't need a driver's license. He's with me. I'm a professional. It's got here. And I'm shitting, right? I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to jail. My mom's going to be so pissed. He doesn't need a license. I'm a professional. It's like, you get away with that. But, a long time ago. So Anyway, good stories like that. We used to have a lot of fun with it, but it was either an old D100 6-cylinder Dodge truck or the Elko, which was a 69 or 70 El Camino with a 350. It was black. But it was a pretty rough Elko even back then. But yeah, it was, yeah, your boy B Mason, not realizing that literally leaving the locals in the dust. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Thank you for not arresting me or my granddad. Oh, so basically it ended like this. It was so the cop goes some of the effect of basically y'all you two get home, and I have a feeling this will be a story or something like that. And my granddad just not say anything. He's, oh, let's get out of here. Fun's over. Yeah. Anyway, Oki's asking if you put Demon Springs on a normal Hellcat, will it do wheelies, or is 707 horsepower still not enough to make it do wheelies? Oh, it's plenty to do wheelies, but you need track prep and you need the rear gear. You need a 309 to help get the front end up. But I mean, that does not have Demon Springs, and it is all but pulling that left front tire off the ground. X is loving that story. There's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot of stories. There's another story of me and my dad, when we had taken the K10 and a Samurai out to this kind of it's kind of an area adjacent to this. Anyway, it had just gotten through raining like hell, and he goes, "Oh, we got to go mudding." So we load up in the truck, bring the Samurai. And we basically took turns getting stuck, and I nearly flipped the Samurai. In fact, I had it kicked over at one point, kind of leaning in a ditch because I did not control the skid on that one. But we had done that. I was in his truck and he was pulling me out. Anyway, showered the whole thing full of mud. Took me about a week to clean that Samurai out. And, but yeah, that was pretty funny. But we used to do stuff like that all the time. And then the motorcycles too. I mean, we'd just find reasons to take those things and go race hell with them. But yeah, X is loving that story. I do too. It was a whole lot of fun living it too. Smoking saying, my dad had a 57 that would pull the front wheels. I begged him to keep it until I was 16. He sold it, and it's probably a good thing or I'd be dead now. I understand that. Smoking saying his boys were the pit crew and he was racing, and now they have the bug. I get it. Okie saying, do story time videos. I would like to. It'd be funny if I could get somebody to illustrate one or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. So X is saying that would be ideal for the channel. Smoking saying bug, not big. Yeah, it's funny. Smoking saying I got caught jumping railroad tracks at about 60 miles an hour outside of a small town. Cop knew me, just shamed me, shook his head. Yeah, I got busted doing backwards burnouts in a Dodge 600. I mean, it was just the shit we would find ourselves getting into. X is loving Samurais. Yeah, Samurais are really fun. Really fun. Smoking saying loving the stories. Cool. Sovereign saying, hey guys. Saying he's working right now, can't mod, but stopped in and say hi. Hey, buddy. X is in. Okie saying, what is the highest horsepower you've ever driven? Well, it would either be this Viper when it had a 300 shot on it. That would have been about 1,200 horsepower. Let's see. That thing was actually pretty nasty towards the very end. I had driven a Nova. I don't know how. I think the Nova wouldn't have been quite that much. The Nova with two 200 kits would have been close to that 1200 horsepower number two. So somewhere in that range. Now, those are cars that had a lot of horsepower that were light. Of course, working at the shop, the 1,000 horsepower cars were a daily driving thing. So a lot of cammed Hellcats with Whipple superchargers. We only had one with a Kenny Bell, but that one also would have been, somewhere in that range. 411 stroker with a Kenny Bell and one of my cams will put you at about, on a Mustang dyno, 966. It puts you about 1066 on a dyno jet, which puts you at about 1300 ish, somewhere in that range. Flywheel horsepower. So it just kind of the later cars, the heavier cars with more power, are certainly much more stable than something like this thing, or something that's a dedicated drag car. Although here's the funny thing, that Nova with the Power Glide, it didn't really feel fast. It was an 8-second car on just one kit. It would run like 890s on one 300 shot. And if you hit it with two 200s, it was probably a 860 car. But the reality is that car was actually pretty sedate getting down the track. It was real steady and just bang, but you launch it and you launch it, you shift it, and that's kind of it. There's nothing to it. This car was probably the most fun because it was a 6-speed manual. The sketchiest car I ever drove was my Cobra. And that one had a 472 cubic inch big block in a car that weighed 2,700 pounds. And that thing was just scary because the wheelbase was very short, and it was just way overpowered chassis. Just it wasn't a good fit. That car would have been amazing with a small block. I'd probably still have that car, but had a small block. Someone saying, hit that like button, folks. Let's see. Okay, saying, is a normal Hellcat scary for a first-time buyer who's never driven high horsepower vehicles? So let me tell you, no, it's not. In fact, it's scary, but for a weird reason. It's scary in that it is as docile as you could possibly imagine. The scary thing about Hellcats, if you want to call it, and it's not just the Hellcat, it's the L1, it's the GT500, also fits into this category. But nothing so much as a Hellcat. The weird thing about a Hellcat is perfectly happy just puttering around like a normal commuter car. The weird thing about the Hellcat is that you can be going down the highway, and just based on what you're normally used to dealing with, like sights and sounds and just everything else that you like, just normal sensory input, you'll think you're going 70 when you're going 95. You can't, when it comes to any of these cars, and again, it's the Z06 Corvette falls into this. Any of these modern supercharged cars, you can't take for granted how fast these things will go, and you will not be aware of this. It's not, you don't get it's not you're not freaked out by the speed. It's not like that. It's something completely different. It's very difficult to put into words, but you would be forgiven if you got bored. If you're going down the highway at 70, went wide, or 75, I'm sorry, and you go wide open throttle with one of these cars, and it gets to 135 or 140 miles an hour, and you don't really realize you're going that fast. That's the scary trait about all of these cars. Again, Hellcat, ZL1, GT500, Z06. It will get to a speed that is feloniously fast in an amount of time that is eerily fast, but in a way that doesn't really let you know the danger that you're in. So, like this car right here, that Viper, you knew you were making every mistake possible when you took that car, even for just a drive around the block. It was constantly in a ready state of murder, right? Foxy back over here. Foxy, even to today, that car needs a freaking bump steer kit like you wouldn't believe. That car at 70 miles an hour going down the highway, you hit expansion joints and that thing starts lane chasing. Yeah, that'll get your attention real quick. But these cars, their bloodline stems from W211 and W212 Mercedes Benz. You got to remember, these are cars that were designed to cruise all day indefinitely at 150 miles an hour. Like that's their whole purpose. Their whole purpose is to run on the Autobahn flat out. So they're in, because of the parts that are on them, they're heavy, but they're heavy duty. And that's one of the best attributes of these cars. But again, all of them are fast, but they're not. And you're asking about the high horsepower cars. They're really fast, but it's not an intuitive level of speed. They get to a speed that you think would be scary, and you think that acceleration would be done in a scary way, and it's just not, especially when you're used to it, until something happens that makes you realize the foolishness that you found yourself in the middle of. So, and I'm reminded, so when I delivered Excessive to Racer X up in Dallas, that his car, 1,000 horsepower car, I mean, you roll into the throttle on drag radials and it would start to haze the tires at highway speeds. This car, because it's stock boost on good tires, will break the tires loose at 50 miles an hour on a watt hit. Going down the highway. So in that respect, they can get a little bit spooky, but no, they're scary in a different way. And they're scary in a way that if you think about it, it's actually a scarier way to be scared. Drinking game. Anytime I just said scared, you got to put one back. Let's see. Oh, Smoking said, I can't even imagine the cars nowadays, like Calvo Vipers at 2,500 or 3,000 horsepower on the street. And the funny thing is that they aren't even the most powerful. Isn't that crazy? But you're right. I mean, yeah, back in the day, I mean, we're like 12, 13, 1,400 horsepower. I mean, you could get away with something like that. And it was a fun car. But when you get into those power levels, all the fun is gone. That is strictly business at that point. No, I was saying Sublime Cat, saying congrats on the win. Very nice. Congrats. Ardell's in. Good evening, B. Good evening, Ardell. Moto X is in. Base is in. What's up? Someone saying I'm on the phone. Nice. Oh. Got all kinds of new stuff going on here. What is this? Oh, you're saying, well, the C7 Corvette ZR1 beat the NASCAR cars at the course. It depends on who's driving what car. I don't know. I mean, each NASCAR is actually put together specifically for the track that they're at. So I'd probably say that it would be tough. It would be tough to beat that car, the actual NASCAR. Although I will say this, I used to be a big fan of NASCAR when I was a kid, but not so much anymore. USMC's asking, first mod suggestions on Hellcat Challenger wide body. Well, diff brace maybe to get you started. But here's the thing. For me, it's if you want results, get that thing to a competent tuner. And the more the more effort you put into the transmission on that car, the transmission tune, I should say, really the more you're going to get out of it. This car right here, most of its work got done just within minor changes to transmission tuning. So as far as that goes, but anything else, I mean, you're going to need a tune if you're going to want to pulley it. So there's always that. Man, I don't have anything else other to add other than this. Get yourself, if you're not going to tune it, get yourself a pedal commander, maybe a 309 gear, and that's it. That's really all I would do to the car. And really, you don't even need the 309 gear if I'm being totally honest. Get yourself a pedal commander so you can adjust pedal sensitivity, your gas pedal sensitivity. For the nerds out there, they call it driver command torque or driver demand torque, depending on the OS you're working with. So I guess that would really be about it. In fact, for guys that are not going to tune their car, I usually tell them to stop right there. Don't worry about removing catalytic converters or anything like that. I've already proven that that's a bad idea. You don't go any faster, so it doesn't make any sense to do it. Michael, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Do appreciate it. Oh, Michael didn't have a question to go with that super chat, but my man, I do very much appreciate that. I'm trying to scroll back up here. Let's see. And this little heart thing keeps getting in the way. Let's see. There we go. Why is it doing that? Sorry. Bear with me, guys. Here we go. Bear with me, guys. They've got this new little heart icon. There we go. Oh, I can do that now. Oh, there's neat things I can do now. Hold, please. Hold, please. There we go. Oh, I'm screwing up. I guess they've changed some things in the hot minute that I was. What in the heck? There we go. Some things are new in the last month. All right, let me get back down here. Let's see. Okay, I think I've figured it out. Here we go. Oh, Sovereign's still replacing a bunch of Verifone equipment. Mountain View, California. My old stomping grounds. SRT is asking what I put airbags on Stormy. Probably not, just because they wouldn't really serve much of a purpose. But I don't see anything wrong with them in general. Got to remember, these trucks, well, at least the DS Rams came with rear airbag. And actually, I had an Expedition that had rear airbags also. Will's asking, have you thought about trying out the GT500? I'm curious to see what you could do with that car. I would be very interested in the GT500 if it didn't have the transmission that it has, because unfortunately, the dual clutch transmission is not my thing, man. I am probably a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to those transmissions, but I just know that once they start going bad, they get real bad. Let me try something. Yeah. It is not letting me scroll. Here we go. Here we go. Bakes is saying, question, is the $600 for the Braille lithium lightweight battery worth it for my scat? No, not really. I mean, unless you're racing the thing and like you're really looking for a number, nah, I wouldn't worry about that. Oki's asking, why are you selling your Hellcat? What are you going to replace it with? I've thought about selling it because, number one, if Dodge does come out with something new, I would need to free up revenue for whatever they're coming out with that's new, whether it's the Hurricane 6 powered Banshee, if it's something along those lines, that might be a great addition for the channel, and it would allow me the opportunity to get something new and bring you guys some new content with a new vehicle. My problem, though, Sovereign said, "Hey, Sovereign, when did you get the Kroll thing? I like that. Cool, man. Did I just miss that, or have I just not been seeing that? So when this is where I've got a bit of a conflict of conscience, though. Like, here's the thing. My car right now, realistically, I know that people would argue with me on this, but realistically, that car should fetch pretty decent money, especially given what all these cars are going for these days. And that would be great to put towards the new car. The problem is that, guys, I couldn't afford to buy that car right now. This car right here, Little Miss Revlon, if I were to try to replicate that car today, it'd be like a $70,000 car. And the thing that is $75,000 car. And what's spooky about that is that, like, I couldn't replace it with something that's going to cost 65 grand, right? And that's what it looks like anything new is going to cost. And heck, you've got scat packs that are costing that much these days. So it's like, damn, if I sell it, I wouldn't be able to replace it. And so, yes, if I was offered the right amount of money for it, I would sell it, but it would be under duress. But I would have to sell it to do a different build, really. So we'll see. And again, I may, just keep doing Mopar Chat Live. And for the what's he up to in the shop, I mean, you've been seeing that, the hilarity that's been coming with those little twists and turns, if you want to get into that part of it. All kinds of interesting things have been going on. So check those videos out. But where I Tommy Boyed the hood on Foxy, yay. Actually, it's looking a lot better too. I put a little bit more work into the cowl. It's never going to be right. But for you guys that don't know, I Tommy Boyed the hood on Foxy. Luckily, I wasn't going very fast, but it did wreck the cowl, exploded the plastic thing. And anyway, went in, did some metal work, got everything kind of straightened out as best I could without cutting the cowl, literally cutting it off. Just went in there, did the trick with one of the speed bags, puffed everything back out, and it's as close as it's going to get, but it's never going to get fixed any more than what it is now, because that was a running joke between me and my dad, is that one of these days that hood is going to do that. And, well, weird timing, good looking out dad. But the timing was a little bit suspect, but it did happen. So anyway, that was something that, it's a reminder of an inside joke that my dad and I had mainly. So that's why I'm just not going to do anything with it in terms of cleaning it up or fixing it any more than what it is. Oh, Smoke and saying just info for others. I use Griot's garage track spade. Oh, that stuff is good to clean out 14 runs worth of burnout rubber behind the tires, and it worked great. Super easy to clean off. My dad used to give me the R1 or whatever it was that he got from MSR, and it works really well too. So thank you for that. Oh, Ardell saying, hey, Sovereign, Mountain Views, California is where my family's from. I lived in Sanho. Love me some Sanho. Sovereign's up in Nob Hill. Very nice. Oh, Sublime saying, no, thanks, man. Yep, Chuck is pretty consistent at that Black Challenger. Sounds good. Been trying to make it down in Norwalk. Very nice. Fastman's asking, hey, B, 285 upper, 1050 injectors with a tune. Am I safe for the most part in my 18 Hellcat longevity-wise? You are at the absolute limit. So I'm going to tell you this. You, depending on the tuner, because I don't know who to tune your car, but are you safe for the most part? As long as you've got access to really good E85, 93 octane, yeah, you're good. But you are at the absolute limit for what I would suggest running on the street. Used to be back in the day, I'd say 295 was the most pulley that I would run. 285 is, I mean, it's you're pushing it, but I would never go 275. Even with a stock lower, I wouldn't go 275 unless I was running a race gas mix or I was doing an E85 type of a setup. So assuming that your tuner understands your local fuel quality and tuned it accordingly, you probably will be in good shape. Oh, Sovereign's at the Nob Hill rallies. Nice. Getting that stuff swapped out. US is asking stock Hellcat wide body tire suggestions for street and track use. ET Street SSs would be the only place I would really go for that. If you're doing true street and track use. Ardell is up in Montana now. Big sky country. I like it. That is a long way up. Fast man, thank you very much. Saying here's some beer money, bro. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Very kind, very kind. That'll buy me Shiner Buck or Shiner Blonde. Probably Shiner Blonde. It's not quite Bach weather yet because it's only 150 degrees outside. Ooh. But thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate that. J392 is asking if I had a 392, what stroker would I go with? Man, if I was building another 392, depends on what I'm going to be doing with the car. It really does. So, and it depends on the circumstance. So, okay. So let's say I've got a car and for whatever reason, let's say I had a lifter go bad and I had to do a rebuild. The engine had to come out of the car. I would, let me tell you what I would do. I would go with 426 just to keep it traditional. Wouldn't mess with 440s or 454s. This is for a street build. I would stick with the stock intake manifold. And I'd put a little bit of a cam in it, but I wouldn't go nuts with it. It'd be something like a, 228, 232 or something like that. It wouldn't be anything major, just something that had a little bit more to it. And I'd bring LSA kind of tight on it just to be a little bit more traditional with it. In terms of sound, just because I'm more of a theater guy than a performance guy when it comes to builds like that. Now then, if I'm building so just remember that there's a stopping point here. That's my street stopping point. There's one other cam and one other intake profile that I would consider. It would be one of my 240 cams with the Edelbrock intake on it, that Victor intake. And it'd be like a 242, 250 cam. And that would be the outside limit of what I would want for the street, but I would have to have a converter, a torque converter for that. And that's where things get a little dicey for me, but I'm either going to be on one end of a spectrum or I'm going to be on the other. I don't like the whole compromise and the blending part. I like to optimize one or the other side of that equation. So taking that to its logical conclusion, if I'm building a race engine, well, it's probably going to be a 440 or a 454. And in that case, it's going to have the Holley high ram. It's going to be a completely different level of build. We're talking at 82 to 8,500 RPM engine, or at least 82 to 8,500 RPM capable platform to play with. And I'm going to be out to try to make really big power with that. So I wouldn't, if I had a perfectly running 392, I wouldn't pull it out to put a stroker in there, mainly because in my experience, you've got one of two directions you can go with that. And really anything in the middle is, it's too much of a compromise. I will say this, there is one combination that wasn't too bad. It was also a 426. The cam in it was a 232, 240 cam. And it was a stock intake car. That was actually a pretty clean little setup. So there's ways that you can put strokers together that work well. But I think that was about, I want to say that's about the most I think you could get away with. No, shit, I'm sorry. That was a 440 with the 232 cam. And that's about as much as you could get away with the stock converter. But that was a 440. I got that one and another one. Started to get those kind of mixed up. Fastman's asking, and how much horsepower with that setup? Oh, talking about the 285 and then 1050s. So I can tell you this, Mean Cat with that combo made enough power to run consistent 980s in good air. So, I mean, you're talking, it depends on the dyno, and dynos can get a little bit sketchy, but I mean, it was enough to run 980s, and that's on pump gas with some boostane just to make sure things were cool. So I would say 780, 770, 790, somewhere in that range on a Mustang dyno. I mean, really good power. Oh, Sovereign saying he's got a 1-to-1 of that thing. I can't pronounce the name, but the crawl, the star is what's on his thing. That's very cool. Yeah, send me a pic of that. That's cool as hell. Will saying he said the same thing about the DC Trans until he drove the latest one on the 2021. It's extremely smooth, very responsive. I would test drive one. You'd be surprised. I bet I would. I would probably like it. I'm not doubting that at all. It scares me, I guess. It's a durability thing. Plus, another issue is that I know of one. I shouldn't. This is a bad sample size. Sample size of one is never good. But I know a few people, but personally, good friends with one guy that had significant problems with that transmission. So, without dogging it out, because it's not my experience, and I don't want to, speak ill of that thing just based on what I know of a few cars. But yeah, if nothing else, there's some bugs to work out. But I know that when it's working well, it works incredibly well. And again, thank you very much, Fastman. Gary's saying hello, Gary. Oh, Ardell's got a bounce. See you, buddy. Oh, Smoking's hanging out with Sublime. Base is asking if I'm going to be returning to a drag strip this year, potentially towards the end of the year, no time real soon. Ogie's asking, do I still wear face masks when I go into places? No, absolutely not. Moto's asking, what will be my collection car for weekend someday? Who knows? Tough to say. There's a few of them that I would like to have, but you can't have all of them. And a lot of them that you want to have are a lot more satisfying to want than they are to have. Man, I would like, as far as builds go, I would really like to build a max wedge car. I think that would be a lot of fun. So if I could pick a build, or if I sold my Hellcat, what would I get? I would probably find a max wedge clone. And that would be a 426 max wedge, twin fours, or a single four. It wouldn't matter to me. But that would probably be the route that I would take. But I would upgrade the brakes. Noab's hanging out with Sublime. Let's see. I would like to get to a dragster, but we'll see how the schedule works. Tad's saying there's an RT twin turbo Stealth sitting basically rotting in a lot by me. I've been considering trying to buy it and just nickel and dime fix it up and do it right. That would be a cool car. Oh, Fastman saying cool tuner and Centera. Cool. Noah's asking, what are your thoughts on a 2800 stall converter? I have a 3200 stall, but I was thinking of saving it for later use. I mean, look at your launches. You're kind of already in that 2,800 to 3,000 RPM range when it basically you hang it on the converter. The thing is any of the latest converters though are really good. So I mean, I throw the 3,200 in it. I mean, get that thing up into the torque band as quick as you can. That 3,200 is going to help you for sure. I mean, look at the truck guys. They use that Circle D 4,200, and you know, they drive those things around on the street really with no big issues. But my Lord, when those things launch, it is absolutely frightening. You see some of these 5.7 trucks launch at the track. Oh, wow. They are not playing around, fellas. Not playing around at all. But guys, I think I am just about to wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of you guys, for all the support. I really do appreciate it. Fastman Sovereign, thank you. Saying like, subscribe, share, appreciate it. Michael, big thanks, my man. Smoking again, thank you, buddy. But yeah, I want to make sure that we're getting back on a little bit more of a consistent schedule. So I may start paring down the Tuesday shows. We'll see how that works out. And I might mix in, I don't know. I'm working on maybe mixing in a different schedule. So we will see how that works out. I do like the Tuesday shows. And of course, Saturdays are always fun too. But what I want to do is get you guys a little bit more of like some behind the scenes type stuff, more of the what's he up to in the shop type of videos. I know that those can be kind of short, kind of easier to digest. And Albert, thank you very much. Saying cheers, B. Appreciate that, bud. So something short, easy to digest, and just kind of shows you a little bit more of what else I'm up to. If you haven't seen any of the videos that I've done with Stormy lately, I did put the Built to Serve wheels on Stormy. Check out that video. The wheels are almost the same color, but they're not the same color as the truck. But man, they look really good on there. It's hard to tell that they're not body color too. So check that one out. Let me know what you think. And it's just been way too hot to try to get any ETs or times out of it. But hopefully next few months roll by, we'll be able to get some ETs, get some, see if we can whittle down that 1366 that we got out of that truck. That's been a lot of fun, by the way. Stock DT Ram with 355 gears now. Truck runs really good. But let's see that. Check out the video of me kind of showing me working on Foxy, because got to show the failures as much as we show the successes. And then from there, I'm going to get you guys, I'll bring y'all into when I start working on the bike and on the boat. We'll share all that together too. So, but with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. So guys, want to thank each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. And listen, guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody, because chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, that is a wrap. Dad, miss, and love you dearly. And we will catch y'all on the next one. Adios.